Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another The Sports U video. Cian McDermott here. Today, we're talking about the Baker Mayfield situation, recent game performance, obviously kind of going over his year so far and why he should potentially be benched for backup Case Keenum. Injury performance, it has not been great for Baker Mayfield. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Yeah, so it's been very interesting for Baker Mayfield this year, and I think it's definitely been disappointing. Obviously, the Browns coming into this year looking like a playoff contender, arguably looking like a Super Bowl contender. Obviously with the amount of talent they have on that roster, injuries plagued them. Obviously, Odell has now left, which was potentially supposed to be good for Baker Mayfield, but it's just been very poor for him. It's just been really bad for him the past several games. He's just unfortunately not performed at the level the Browns would want him to. 176 completions on 275 attempts, a completion percentage of 64%, which is up there. Only 2,100 yards, where he was projected at this point in the season to have nearly 3,200, 10 touchdowns and 6 picks. And you kind of look at where he stands right now, a QBR of 37, which is 26 in the NFL, and 10 touchdowns is only 23rd, and his yardage has him at 23rd in the NFL as well. He's just been below average for this Browns team, and obviously I think, what the Browns would have loved to see him is kind of step up to the plate and still win them games. Obviously, when quarterbacks face adversity, there is room for obviously disimprovement, or there's room for error. But for Baker Mayfield, it seems that there's been a little bit too much as of recent. Obviously, you look at the past 3 games, and it was really up and down for Browns fans in particular, because they go and they beat Cincinnati. They triumph over Cincinnati 41-16. Big game coming off a 2-game losing streak, obviously losing crucially the week prior to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then they lose to the Patriots, and they get just completely blown out 45-7. And then they lose to the they win to the Lions barely 13-10. So, it's just a disappointing for a little bit for Baker Mayfield, and I think it comes down to the point where he's just the plethora of injuries he has. Obviously, that labrum has been the main storyline this season. He's just been injured, and then you lose Odell, and now it's kind of a receiving corps that's very depleted and very bereft of talent, obviously with Jarvis Landry being the best guy, and then you probably have Donovan Peoples-Jones, who's still a little bit young but has shown improvement, and obviously that tight end group has faced a lot of injuries in the offensive line as well. And I think a lot of people kind of move this blame towards Stefanski, where I think Stefanski is one of the best coaches in the NFL. I think he's been fantastic for this Browns team. I think this year should not decide whether he keeps that job. I unfortunately think it definitely comes down a lot to Baker Mayfield. And I know when we look at these, when you look at teams playing bad, you don't want to pinpoint it on the quarterback. Like, for example, when the Lions are doing bad before they got Goff, you can't really blame it on Stafford. But I think this year there's been a lot of that. I think Daniel Jones for the Giants, he's been a big reason as why they've been poor. And I think, unfortunately, in the NFL, you cannot be a contender and have poor quarterback play. As much as people might say Garoppolo was that and they made it to the Super Bowl, Garoppolo won games with the 49ers. Baker Mayfield cannot win games, and he's just not proven to be a winning quarterback. I know last season, and I think last season was a little bit deceiving. I think that Pittsburgh win was great, but it was defensively a ridiculous performance. I think he's been bailed out by Chubb and the coaching of Stefanski, and I think, unfortunately, Baker Mayfield, while he may be a starting quarterback, this is not a guy who's going to lead a Browns team to the Super Bowl. He's not going to be a guy who leads any other franchise to the Super Bowl, and I don't think teams would really be interested in him. Obviously, he's coming up on his contract year, so it's now to the Browns, do we want to bring back this quarterback who, unfortunately, has looked, last year. I think the main thing Baker Mayfield is riding right now is last year and just the hope that they give him that next year. And it's definitely an awkward situation because you look at Daniel Jones, which I'm going to do a video on later, and it's like, all right, well, Daniel Jones has had 3 years. We know by Thanksgiving if he's good, he's not, time to move on. But Baker, it was last year. It's like, okay, this guy is our guy. And I'll even admit it, I've said Baker Mayfield's a franchise guy. It's really been up and down for me. But then it goes into this season, and it's like, what can quarterbacks do when they face adversity? You look at Mahomes. Yeah, when quarterbacks face adversity and they're playing bad, everyone's going to make videos. Everyone's going to, claim that they're not the franchise quarterback for whatever team. You look at Mahomes, obviously no one is claiming that for Mahomes, but this year when the Chiefs were having that, really poor streak, everyone's like, are the Chiefs overrated? But then obviously Mahomes, when he faces adversity, he comes back and now they're winning games and they look like the regular Chiefs. And unfortunately for the Browns, I don't see that drive in Mayfield. And it all comes down to, coming out of college and just the problems that have faced him the past several years. He doesn't have a fantastic arm. His turnover problem consistently comes back as it has this year. I mean, you look at the games that he, that they lose. I mean, against the Patriots, 11 for 21, 73 yards, a pick and a touchdown, was sacked twice, and had a 52% completion percentage. You really look down the line when Baker has below a 65% completion percentage, they lose games. 52 against the Patriots, and then obviously they got that win against Detroit. But Baker still threw 2 picks and only 1 touchdown for only 176 yards, and his completion percentage has been terrible. And I think to be fair, I think definitely people's views are skewed on recent performance, which they should be. But Baker, to me, he seems kind of like it's just he reminds me too much of Johnny Manziel's too much out there, but just the Browns quarterback who just struggles. And I think credit to him. He comes in, the Browns were an awful organization for God knows how long, for as long as I've probably been alive since that point, and he really brings them up. And now the Browns, as much as we hate on them right now, even at their lowest since we've seen them, are 10 times better than they were years ago. So fair, Baker Mayfield, I think this guy is very much a game manager, but you kind of look at, he needs talent around him to play very well. And we see that with a lot of quarterbacks, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But for the Browns, who have this really raw talent that definitely needs to be coached within the next 2-3 years, defensively mainly, you need a quarterback who, when he doesn't have a lot of talent, can still win games. And you're looking, if you plug in Mahomes or if you plug in Deshaun Watson, if you plug in, I'm looking at more young guys, not like Aaron Rodgers, Brady, obviously, but it's a little bit unrealistic. And it's an interesting situation, I think, because you really look at the Browns right now and it's like, are they like what's happening? Because Super Bowl contenders to now, like, would they because you lose Mayfield, no matter where you are in stage of your franchise, if you lose your quarterback that has been there for the past 3-4 years, in a certain sense, it's rebuilding a team, because you're bringing in a new quarterback, most likely. Again, it's questionable, most likely, especially with this year's draft class. You're not going to be hitting on a guy immediately, so it's going to be another 2-3 years. So it just sucks for Browns fans. I think, Deshaun Watson might now come into the picture if you want to bring him in. Obviously, we know the Browns have had selections, and I think they have a lot of talent on that defense. And then you trade away Odell, which I think was smart. And that's why I think when you look at really the Browns organization, I think we know that it's not them. It's the Browns organization coaching is not terrible. This is not a big reason why they have been losing. I think it still comes down to Baker Mayfield. I think they still have been able to coach well, and I think as much as we obviously dislike Baker, he's still been able to win games. But you look down to it, trading Odell, you're looking at an organization that's poor or an organization that's poorly managed. They're like, this guy's a star receiver, I'm going to give him another chance. But the Browns notice he's not very good with Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield is quite obviously better without him, although that may contradict as of recent. And they trade him away, and they get him away soon. Like, they traded him away. They got him away soon. They didn't have this kind of, debacle. They didn't let it kind of, pan out. They didn't make it long. They did it, and they got it done. And I think that's what we have to give credit, because the Browns organization has transformed in the past several years. So I think that is definitely a big part of why you have to look at it in two views, because I think a lot of people who talk about sports generally are not looking at the quarterback first. It goes to the organization and how are they performing. But the Browns, kind of classically or for the past couple years have been a good organization. They signed a good head coach who's arguably one of the coaches of the year this year, or was running for it last year. And I think it's the same this year. And for Baker, just unfortunately, it sucks, and I stumble a lot, because it's so hard to not wrap your head around it, but it's so hard to elaborate why Baker doesn't work. Because at the end of the day, yes, a lot of things kind of affect how a quarterback plays, whether a quarterback should be benched. And I think 150% it comes down to, if you're going to comment this, it comes down to injuries. 100% injuries set people back. You kind of look, obviously Saquon, I'm going back to the Giants. Saquon, probably not the same running back after that injury. And obviously the torn labrum, which he kind of had to fight through, is probably a big reason why he should probably won't be the same this season. Obviously they benched him in that Patriots game for Keenum, and I think when you look at Keenum and Baker, they're pretty similar quarterbacks. I think Baker probably a little bit better of a rusher, maybe a little bit more game managing, but Case Keenum can probably do just as much as Baker can. And yeah, I think, at the end of the day, it comes down to Baker Mayfield. Unfortunately, came out of college, and we didn't see a ton of high upside. I think we all saw him as a safe quarterback. I think we saw him as someone who would be good immediately, and or not, and maybe wouldn't be fantastic. And maybe this is a trend we see from some of the other guys that come into the league. But I think for Baker Mayfield, unfortunately, it's kind of that decision making, and he kind of still to me seems a little bit childish with the way he acts. He seems a little bit immature, which I might be completely wrong about. But I think, unfortunately, for the Browns, it's been a step back this year, and I think it's been a step back that you really, really didn't want. Again, contribute to injuries. I think it's 100% fair, but it's a step back that really hurts this Browns team because you have everyone healthy this year. They're Super Bowl contenders. Obviously, Chubb's been out, Hunt's been out, offensive line injuries, and I know, every time that we talk about someone playing bad or being, poorly performing, it always comes down to, there's been injuries, which is fair, but I think, unfortunately for Baker Mayfield, if I'm the Browns and he's going to a contract year and we look at the quarterbacks or we look at the talent we have, I mean, we're already basically rebuilt. We just get a quarterback in there and we're that team. And whether that's drafting a Malik Willis, Matt Corral, Kenny Pickett, one of the quarterbacks this year, or that's going out and getting someone in free agency, going getting a Deshaun Watson, maybe getting an Aaron Rodgers, who knows, getting, a Russell Wilson who's been rumored to leave the Seahawks obviously this year. I think that's what needs to happen for the Browns. I think it's benching Baker, and it's not only benching Baker because he's been playing poor. I think injuries just unfortunately have hit him, and I think giving him like 2-3 weeks to rest would make sense. But right now the Browns probably won't make the playoffs. I think the Ravens and the Bengals are much better, although the Browns played very well, which is another questionable thing because it's up and down for Baker. It's really good, really bad. So it's definitely hard to tell, but I think it's unfortunate for Baker Mayfield, but let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Is Baker done? Should he be benched? And as always, follow us on social media at The Sports Scoop. More mock drafts will come. We got a lot of stuff coming for you guys, so make sure you guys like, subscribe, follow us on social media. My name is Cian McDermott. See you next time. Is Baker done? Who knows? See you next time.